what can reading do to a nation? Will it foster development, national growth, and all of this? We shall try to find answers to these concerns on this edition of Perspectives. I have been joined here in the studio by two discussants who will drive the conversation. They are both of them are authors, they are writers, and have been really involved in campaigns promoting reading. A writer and former head of Department of English at the Benue State University, Makudi, Professor Moses Senango, has joined us as our guest on Perspectives. Welcome to our iGate Radio, Prof. Good to have you.
My pleasure, not.
All right. Also with us is a former National Secretary General of the Association of Nigerian Authors. He is currently the national ex-officio of that association, Mr. Mike Otsega. Welcome to Perspectives, Mr. Otsega.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel. Thank you, listeners.
My name is Nathaniel Nongo, welcoming you to this Monday edition of Perspectives. You may be tuning into the program for the first time. Don't worry, here is an audience participatory program, which you can always engage with us later at 10 o'clock by calling in. You can do so by calling the number 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. That's the line to participate on the program. You may send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. That line for messages is also available for WhatsApp chats. If you are sending us a text or a chat, please remember to include your full name and where you are sending your message from. Log on to our website on www.agateradio.tv.com to also listen to us live. You may download the Agate Radio and TV app from Google Play Store. There, once you download the app, it's a one-stop one that serves you to listen to the radio, watch the television, as well as read the newspaper. We're available on. We are back. Our discussion here in the studio. We continue. Do stay tuned. Don't go away, please. Thank you very much for staying tuned, dear listener. Welcome back from that short break. Prof, I'd like to begin with you. What is your assessment of the reading culture of Nigerians in contemporary society?
Well, you said it yourself. We are aware that the reading culture of this country and Africa generally is very poor. And there's a background to that. Our society was oral. We listen to folk tales. Every society in the world began by being oral. Other societies moved on into reading much earlier than us. Africa was yet to get into the writing culture. That is what they call the chirographic culture, like other societies. And because of that, we were more used to listening to stories. But reading came to us via Western education. And so we didn't actually pick it too much. I remember talking with the late Professor David K. many years ago. He said that if you are abroad, you take a flight, let's say from London to another city in the UK, or from one city in the USA to another, or in France, you are likely going to find someone reading. People will buy books at the airport. Everybody will be reading the aircraft. But when you come to pick a flight anywhere back to Nigeria, you discover that people are not even bothered about reading, except foreigners that are there. Africans coming home, you will not see them with any reading material at all. So it's not too encouraging. You said it yourself. If you want to hire anything from an African, you just put it in a book. So it's not contemporary. It's not a contemporary problem. I think it's something that has been there, and there is a historical reason to that. It's something that has to be developed. The reading culture has to be cultivated deliberately.
Okay, so do you agree that if you want to hide something from an African, you hide it in the book? You are a professor yourself. I'm sure if you never opened the books, you wouldn't have been a professor. Is that saying true about Africans? It's just a derogatory
No, when
word?
we're talking about African, we're not talking about African professors. African professors are those who make their living by reading and writing.
Okay.
And authors are the same thing. As an author, you have to read before you write. But we are talking about the typical African. That is not said with any pejorative intentions. It doesn't come to us too easily. It's something that must be deliberately cultivated. You go to school, you learn to read. In fact, up till now, majority of reading that happens in Africa, Nigeria, is one done for purposes of exams. How many of us want to read just to acquire knowledge? Read for pleasure. That is very challenging. So we are not trying to self-sabotage Africa, but we have to face the fact. The reality is there.
Okay, Mr. Ortega, let me have your thoughts of what is your assessment of our reading culture.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nads. The reading culture, like Prof has said, is actually declining. You know, I had cause to participate in a research about reading culture. And in that research, I discovered that about 87% of Nigerians have never read a book from cover to cover after they left school. And you discover that even that is a conservative assessment, because it is very difficult to find people reading, just like Prof is it's saying. And there are many reasons for this. One of them is the fact that the society in which we live has a lot of challenges. People struggle extra miles to put food on their tables. And sometimes the luxury of sitting down in a particular place to open a book and read is not there. And then some people talk about the expensive nature of the reading materials themselves, and then the issue of light. Some people even attribute it to the poor electricity that we have in the country, so that by the time somebody comes back in the evening to open a book, most of the times you don't even have light in your house. So there are so many things.
Phrase or popular saying about us Africans that if you want to hide anything from an African, hide it in a book. Those who came up with that thought, are they just derogatory about Africans? And as Nigerians, do we also share in that? Is that true of our experience as reading is concerned?
Well, to me, even though we have the poor reading culture there in Africa, it's there for everybody to see. But I think to some level that is delegatory because you still have a tiny group that is reading, that believes in reading and is reading books. And I think success is assured of people who have made reading their habit. So I don't think putting if you want to hide something for an African, put it in a book is something that should be celebrated. It is derogatory to me because we still have people who read and they find it very useful. You know, reading can be a very great companion to you. You know, when you read a book, and reading resists the passage of time better than even humans do, because reading is constant, and it gives you joy because of the constancy. Human beings are not so constant like that. So there are so many things. Reading can also brightens the environment. It brightens your house, and it becomes the defining feature of your personal landscape. So I don't think it is correct for us to talk so much about if you want to put something, hide something from our African, you put it in a book. It is not encouraging.
All right, Prof, you stated earlier that there is a decline in reading culture. What are the factors responsible for this?
Well, you heard one of them from Mike here. The challenges of existence. the difficulties of living, putting food on the table is one. You can even talk about the poor electricity, but I started by giving you a historical perspective.
Yeah.
That is something that comes from our culture. Our cultures are oral. Africa has been regarded as the oral continent par excellence. Those who say that did not always say with the best of intentions, but it's a reality. My great-great-grandfather didn't know how to read and write, as was the case elsewhere. The written alphabet came here just about 100 years ago. In fact, in Benue State, in my part of Benue State, it was by 1911 that the missionaries came here, and then not too long after that they started schools. So this is something that is relatively new. And because of its relative newness, there are limitations to which it has been accepted. And then apart from that, we also have the invasion of cable television.
Yeah.
See, it's a huge distraction. People are more inclined to watch stuff now, watch football, even with their handheld.
Yeah.
These are basic distractions. So because of that, you discover that reading is on the decline.
Yes. Okay, you want to expand further. Okay, if you stop at that, but let's look at the advent of cable television, as you mentioned. There are also technological devices at internet. Is that not supposed to foster or rather encourage a culture of reading rather than contributing to its decline?
No, the truth is, we're talking about cable television. It's not the only challenge. We're talking about when these challenges come together. People are we have a historical perspective to it. People are having problems with existence. There is poor electricity. And the reasons are many. I have met someone who stopped his children. In fact, my own father didn't even want me reading.
Oh, really?
If I went,
perhaps he had his reasons
no,
that he shared with you.
if I went on holiday and I was reading, he would be very angry. He said, "What are those that have read the book? What are they getting?" He will start telling me that. Even the other day, this other principal came here asking him for a loan. Is that what I want to? So you see, people are, if you read what comes out of it, these are the issues. So it's not just cable television came. You can read on the internet, you can read on Kindle and all of that, but there are other reasons too. And when these reasons come together, the fact that you can also read via the internet by all of that, when these other factors come in, they undermine the reading possibilities that are there with the internet. So that is it. So let's go back to your question. Your question was what?
The fact, generally, it was the factors that have contributed to the decline of reading culture. And when you spoke, I wanted to
expand on that.
Expand that whether internet may encourage reading, because we are in an era where internet availability is not a problem. With your handheld device, you can access every content.
Those who are, we are not saying that all Africans don't read, all Nigerians don't read. We are saying that comparatively speaking, the percentage is very little.
Yeah.
So that percentage that is reading, despite whatever challenges, the only percentage that is likely to read via the internet. That's the point we are making.
All right, Mr. Osega, speak to us. Maybe there are more factors that are responsible for the decline of reading culture that you want to advance.
Yes, I want to make a comment on the internet, the situation of the internet, whether fostering reading or causing its decline. You know that the internet has come is a very good thing. You have millions of books there. But it is also destructive, because even as you are reading on internet, there are bound for there are some things are supposed to come out, to pop up, that will distract your reading, even while you are reading on the internet. Yes, you have electronic readers and so many other things, but the generation in which those things have come is a generation that is maybe inherently distracted. The current generation has a lot of distractions, just like Prof have said, from cable television, from social media, So everybody who is at the internet, you discover most of the times the younger people are more excited about social media platforms instead of where they can go to get the books to read. And as a result of this, you find that it's declining. And even reading on electronic readers and all these internet gadgets, reading on gadgets has also its own problems. Because most of the times, if you don't live where you have steady light power supply, most of the time the batteries, this reading depends on batteries of the device you are using. So when the batteries are not alive, how will you read? And then you have some people, like some of us, we are not so excited about the electronic reading. A tiny group like me, we don't like reading electronically, because you want to read a book to feel, to touch the book, to feel it, to smell it. But all those features, you can't find them on the internet and all that. So it itself is destructive. Apart from that, you discover that those who don't live in the cities don't even have access to libraries. I was even talking about the high cost of reading materials. Books are very expensive now. So that is also causing people not to embrace reading so much as they would have done.
All right, Prof, let's go back to the subject of reading for pleasure and reading for examination. To what extent are these two married together?
Well, to some extent, they are really, really married. But to other extents, they are not at all. Let's say, if a student went to the university or any tertiary institution, and that student is studying the course that he or she loves, admires, studying that course becomes a pleasure. I give you my example. I wanted to read English. By all means, I had options to go for other courses. Fortunately for me, I had an uncle who was lecturing in the university that I went to. He wanted me to read law by all means. I wanted English. So reading was a pleasure for me. So when I was reading for exams, it was a pleasure to me. But just imagine that a student has been given a course that he or she doesn't like. And so this student is reading for that examination with a lot of misgivings. So to that extent, that reading will not be a pleasure. So if I can say anything at all, what I can say to any of such students listening to us is that if you don't have what you want, you have to want what you have. They give you a cause. I believe a lot in God. So if that was not the cause of your interest, go ahead and like it. You never can tell where it is leading you. So that reading for exams can be a pleasure. You see, it's a fact that what you are doing out of pleasure, you are more likely to succeed in it more than what you are doing just out of trepidation. That which you do with pleasure is more likely to take you forward, to bring you progress, more than what you are just doing because you have no option. So it's very important that everybody who is reading for exams ensures that they are reading for pleasure as well. If acquiring knowledge is a joy to you, you'll be reading for that exam, but you'll be reading with happiness as well. So that is what I can say. I don't know whether I spoke to your question.
Mr. Mike,
Yeah.
you are a writer.
Yeah.
Help us understand to what extent are people embracing reading for pleasure and maybe your interaction with students, reading for basically preparing for examination.
Yes, I think majority of our people are no longer reading for pleasure. And I think part of the problem is because there are so many things that they find them pleasurable. You understand? When we were growing up, reading was the only thing that could give us pleasure. So as young people, we were able to identify series like the African Readers Library, African Writers series, First Sitters and all that. We used to read a lot for pleasure. And sometimes when we sit among our peers, we even boast of the kind of books we are reading And then that encouraged other people to also buy into the culture of reading. But now, you discover there are so many things competing for attention. The entertainment industry, music, stand-up comedy, there are so many things that are giving people pleasure. So sometimes they wouldn't want to even task their brains to read so that they will get the pleasure that they can easily get through all this visual television, all these cable TV, all these their phones, Android phones and all that. So you discover that it is only in school, under school situation, that students, even there, it's like forcing them to read so that they succeed, they pass in their exam. They are not doing it with pleasure. That's why I said, a research say that 87% of people have never read a book after they left school, which means in school they were doing it so that they could pass exams. But after school, you don't see the reason for reading again. So it's a very challenging development. But you will agree with me that success is assured of everyone who has made reading a habit in his or her life. So I think as Nigerians, we need in our society to be reading more for pleasure. You know, because of the habit I developed as a child now, you always see books at the head of my bed. I have to read myself to sleep. If I don't read, I can't sleep. So, and I know that this thing has helped me a lot. It helps you. You are fluent in your communication, you know, and even in the books, they help you to develop emotionally. And I think this lack of reading avaricious reading is what is killing our society. Because you discover that if you ask the question, how many of our leaders even read books? Every solution to any problem under the sun is somewhere in books. But how many of our people read books? In that kind of environment, you create a society where people are not creative in solving problems. Because creativity has been taken away. Everything is shown to you plain. You don't have to tax your brain and all that. So it is not helping us. It's a sad thing that people are not reading for pleasure, even for academic. It's like they are being forced to do it. It's a sad reality.
Someone argued that some professors, I don't know if it is true, that some professors, once they attend even the peak of professor, they no longer read. Prof, is that true?
Well, I won't know about that. Because the truth is that when you rise to the ranks, you get to the position of a professor, reading becomes part and parcel of your life. You wouldn't be a professor if you have not made reading part and parcel of your life. And if you get to that point, to my mind, I don't think there is any way you can survive otherwise. But I want to go back to the question you asked earlier.
Very well.
About reading for pleasure and reading for exams. And I think there is something we must really clarify. We must clarify about the reading material. The reading material is where we need to be very clear about. The main issue is that we must encourage people to read beyond exams.
Yes.
Now, you notice that the answer I gave earlier was one in which I tried to philosophize about making what you are studying your pleasure.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we must encourage people to read beyond exams. Because there are books that are purely for pleasure. For those of us that are in the arts,
Yes.
we write novels, poems, drama, pieces of drama.
Yes.
You discover that is the kind of reading that is often classified as reading for pleasure.
Yes.
So people must learn to go beyond wherever you are, whether you are in the sciences, wherever you are, you must come back to read beyond the narrow extent of your discipline. Go on to reading for pleasure. Because pleasure is where stories are told.
Yes.
And these stories teach. These stories enhance your understanding of life and society. These stories bring up some of the issues that you heard Mike talking about.
Yeah.
issues like giving you communicative competence, giving you confidence, and all of that. So we're talking about encouraging people to read beyond. Don't just be satisfied with reading for your exams.
Yeah.
Whether you are in management sciences, you are a lawyer, you should learn how to go beyond the confines of your discipline.
All right, dear listener, if you are just tuning in, you are listening to Perspectives on iGate Radio 95.5 Star FM, Makudi, Benue State. We are discussing promoting national reading culture. Our discussant here in the studio, I have a former head of Department of English at the Benue State University, Makudi. He is an author himself, Professor Moses Tsenongu, former National Secretary General of the Association of Nigerian Authors. Is a national ex-officio of that association. Currently, Maik Otsega is also our guest. And later at 10 o'clock, you can participate on the program by calling in on 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Meanwhile, the line for text messages and WhatsApp chats is already activated for you to contribute through text or a short message to WhatsApp. That line is 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. Remember to include your full name and the address where you are sending your message. Please keep your message very brief. Log on to our website on www.igetradiotv.com to listen up from Google Play Store, which will serve you to read the newspaper, watch the television, and listen to the radio. If you go to Google, I beg your pardon, if you go to Radio Garden, you find us there on our social media platforms where there. This program is streaming on our platforms. If you follow us there, drop your comments. If they are related to the subject matter we're discussing, definitely we take it as your contribution. Mr. Otsega, what does reading do to a nation in terms of national development? What are its contributions?
Yeah, that's a very good question. You know, there is no nation that will stand above the reading culture of the citizens. Because where the citizens are not reading, they become so gullible. Because reading encourages rational thinking. The one who is not reading is not rational at all. Whatever you tell them goes. And I think that is the problem with the current Nigerian society today. Even decisions about choosing our leaders, decisions about what there is happening in the country that people don't like, you know, you don't see any rationality into most of the things that are happening. And whatever the people are told, they agree with it because they are not reading. They are not developing these skills that we've been talking about. So how can you grow when you are not reading? There is no way. That's why I started by saying you cannot stand above, a nation cannot stand above the reading culture of the citizens.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah.
Weigh in on this subject. What are the contributions of reading to national development or nation building?
Well, let's begin at the individual level.
Very well.
And then we can move to national because a nation is made up of individuals.
Yeah.
Good.
And if these individuals are not well developed, that nation will just be who those individuals are.
Sure.
What are the benefits of reading to the individual? They are countless. I think it's Richard Steele that says somewhere that reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body.
Yeah.
If you are reading, you are asking questions. Reading is an activity that is accompanied by so many methods by which the individual is developed. Intellectually, the mind is strengthened. So if you don't read, you will not have a strong mind. You'll be gullible. I think that is what Mike was trying to say.
Yeah.
So if as an individual, you have not read enough, you are not reading very well, anything goes as far as opinions are concerned.
Yeah.
So when you read, you are well equipped. You can ask questions because the thing with books is that most of the time books are written by people that have. So if an individual has read very well, that individual is someone that can be reliable. And so if a group of individuals, that is a nation, is made up of people that have read very well, they will sincerely be regarded as civilized and matured. So reading, if you interact with someone that is well read, you will know. You go to a nation that is made up of well read people, you will know. You will have the feel that this person has some experience of many words, because reading introduces you to many words. So the individual must read. I think people must come to a point whereby they are ashamed of their ignorance.
Yes.
And then they want to develop themselves. And the issue is, if you really value your sense of maturity, you want to improve yourself.
Yeah.
There are so many books that you can read, and they can change your perspective about life, about subject. But in fact, for me, almost everything that I have done, I try to start by reading concerning that topic. And when you read and you do some research, you now acquire enough information that can help you to make informed decisions. So when we're talking about informed decisions, whether by the individual and subsequently by a nation, they come because people have equipped themselves. They have exercised their minds enough by reading. They have risen to a certain level, a certain point whereby they are not just anything goes kind of people. They select opinions. They have their own perspective. They are not just there to follow. Mm-hmm. They themselves, they have what they can offer because they have thought about these issues very well. So that is what I can say.
This saying, which Mike did mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
readers are leaders.
Mm.
Do we have it applying in our Nigerian experience?
It's difficult to say. I don't want to talk about leaders too much. I myself tried to be a leader. But the truth is, Brindo will tell you, this is not about books. So this is not a university room. That's the truth. So I'm very doubtful. I really am doubtful. We used to have, if you go back to years, Shivawolo was well read. Yeah. Everybody knew. Up to today, you read his works, you admire him. Zik was well read.
The Kwame Nkrumah
was well read. You know, Senghor was well read. Mandela was well read. Obasanjo was well read.
The Obamas of the world.
Yes.
Good.
Obasanjo was well read. Up till now, he reads well because I had the opportunity to get to his office, to his room, and I was shocked at the number of books the man had around him. So the point is, I am not sure our leaders are actually good readers. I'm not sure they are good readers. I'm not sure. I don't want to be too categorical, but I'm not sure. That's what I can say.
Mike, let me have your thoughts. At what point are we deviating from that established tradition that readers should be leaders?
It's a very shameful story, but that's just the truth. We have deviated. If you are to go around maybe government houses across the country, you will discover to your shock that most of the government houses don't even have libraries within. Because I have calls with people who have gone to some government houses to do research, and they discover that the material they were looking for, which is supposed to be very recent, is not even there. So if people are not keeping records, keeping books very well, how do you even think that they are reading? And that is the difference. I remember some time ago, one American president came to Nigeria. Was it Bill Clinton or so? So the moment he arrived in Nigeria, he made it was jocular though, that he wanted to be taken to Omoafia because he had read things far apart. So he was imagining how the setting in Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart will look like in modern time.
Yes.
So he was asking whether he could be taken to that place. And the people laugh. They say all these are fictional settings and all that. So it means he was engaging with the books. And there are some leaders that if they are to visit a new place, they read everything they can lay hands on concerning that place. But I don't think our leaders have that luxury of time. And that is why you see the antics, the politicking, so many other things that they engage in are things that will not even give them room to have a better time to read. And that is why I started by saying every problem, most of the problems we have in this society, if we have people who read leading us, it would have been a different ball game, because everything under the sun is written. Every solution to any problem is written somewhere. People who have encountered similar situations have written books so that those who find themselves in that kind of situation should read and know how to wangle themselves out of it. But sadly, they're not reading. Sometimes the quality of speeches that people come out to make you laugh. Even that alone tells you that these people are not reading. But I'm not just generalizing. Maybe there could be a few of them who are reading, but majority don't have time for such tasking things that task the memory.
When you started this, my mind quickly went to during COVID-19.
Yeah.
There was a popular book. I don't know if it is true, but a popular book, a section of it, a page was quoted of what the writer did stated in the book years backward.
Yeah.
And maybe the same thing came to play during the COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah.
So supposing such information were to be in public domain, maybe the fever about COVID-19 wouldn't have been new entirely.
Do you know that even this AI, this artificial intelligence we are talking about, some science fiction writers have written about it long ago. Yes, you find it in some novels that were written many years ago. So everything is documented. It's not that we don't have the patience or the time to sit down and engage with books.
All right, Prof, let's go back to the basics. Recently, particularly last week, Thursday, the National Library of Nigeria flagged off its annual readership promotion campaign. Yeah. And one of the points they made was calling for reintroduction of reading hours in timetables of schools across the country. Do we have a timetable of schools factoring in reading properly, especially at the basic level and even at the tertiary level?
I will speak to that, but let me take a step back. Beautiful. Concerning what we're saying about leaders.
Okay.
I'm aware that leadership sometimes can be a heavy burden.
Yeah.
And easy lies the head that wears the crown. So what I want to chip in is that if our leaders have not read sufficiently, they can surround themselves with people that are well read.
Yeah.
And take the opinions of those people seriously. That is one way to help yourself. If you are not well, even if you are well read, you must surround yourself with people that are educated sufficiently, that have read wide.
Yes.
And these people can help you. Now, coming back to your question, what the National Library has done is most commendable.
Yeah.
I know there are some schools. My daughter attends a school, a private school in Abuja, where they already have a reading hour. That hour is just for reading. You spend that hour for reading, nothing else. And if that is introduced to schools, it's fantastic. It's a most commendable idea. You know, Actually, when my daughter told me that, I said to myself, I wish that could be generalized. Possibly the National Library heard of it and heard of what was happening in that particular school and then decided to copy for the whole nation. It's a commendable idea. I am grateful that the National Library has included that into their terms of service to the country. Their job is to provide books and a space for people to read. But if they notice that reading needs to be encouraged, doing this will be very helpful, and I really, really admire it. It's something commendable, and it's something that I want to say that related ministries and parastatals should pick up on it and ensure that it is made practical, beginning in Benue State, where we hope it will emerge in
reading hours on their timetables, but at the secondary or basic level, as it is called now, and even tertiary levels.
If I want to speak about that, I may be assuming, and I don't want to be making assumptions here. I think the right person who can handle that may be a school principal or a VC somewhere. In the university, for example, we only encourage people to read. We encourage people to read, but I believe that there is a level, like secondary school levels. If a principal can decide that in my school, what the National Library has mentioned is going to become practical, and they can introduce an hour like that. Maybe immediately the students come back from break, or maybe before break, anytime at all. At this point, we can only encourage them. I cannot quantify or assess what they are doing. I cannot, because I don't think I'm in a position.
The interesting aspect which you mentioned was as calling for the domestication of this policy in government ministries and parastatals, because reading is not. But Mike, let me have your thoughts on this advocacy for the reintroduction of reading hours in school timetables across the country, as advocated by the National Library of Nigeria.
I think it's a very good thing. It's long awaited, and I think it's a very good thing. But another angle to it is that, the National Library should find a way of supporting schools that are in the rural areas. You know that most of the schools we have don't even have libraries. And those in the villages that have libraries, sometimes you discover that the resources being held within the libraries are outdated. There are books that were there in the 70s and all that, and they don't have new books that are, in tandem with current realities. So it's not just about telling the pupils or the children to have a reading hour. It's about looking at what resources they have that they can actually use in reading. So I think it's part of it. The National Library should look towards that too.
All right. And Prof, again, as part of this campaign, they also called for a National Reading Day. The National Library is also advocating that a National Reading Day should be one that made available for the entire country. To what extent is this achievable?
Fantastic idea. First and foremost is looking at the idea itself. Is it a good idea? To me, it's fantastic. It's drawing awareness, creating awareness of the necessity of reading. And one cannot commend them enough. I want to go back to what Mike said about the need to update the libraries or bookshelves, because some schools don't actually have a library. They just have a room where there are some bookshelves.
Yeah.
They need to encourage the National Library can do that, but I think we must also encourage public-spirited individuals, people who, let's say people in the National Assembly, politicians, for example, who are in a place.
Yeah.
That is not just by giving people money.
Or rights.
Also, or rights. You can decide to go
because
and talk.
That's the eating now.
Yes. You can go and talk a number of schools within your constituency with books.
Yes.
It's wonderful to be very commendable, because some students don't have what can motivate them to read.
Yeah.
This has been there. I remember I attended the community secondary school in my village. And I read every single book I read.
You see?
In that what we call the library. I read every book.
Yeah.
Every day I will go hoping there will be another book. There won't be. So public-spirited individuals, politicians particularly, because they are those who
have the deep pockets.
who have the deep pockets, or at least they want to have something they can point to.
Okay.
You can buy books to schools within your constituency. It's very important.
Yeah.
Because these books that you are buying, some pupils, some students will read them and they can change their lives. It's very key, it's very important. But again, I want to say that our students shouldn't wait for books to be bought. If you are in a place, you are a teacher, you are in your school, there are no new books, still encourage your students to go and read.
Yeah.
Whatever you read, even if it is outdated, does not really matter. You are developing your mind.
Yeah.
It's reading that matters. Of course, it should be updated, but if it is not updated, what is there? Read it. It's very important. It's very key. So those are the things I want to mention.
Okay,
And-
Mike, let's talk more on this subject matter of public libraries. Away from school libraries, do we have the public ones functional?
That's another very serious problem we have in the country. You know, in some parts of the world, you have public libraries, community libraries, you know, and a lot of people are benefiting from such libraries. But here, I don't think we have put that on a high pedestal. Because if you go around some of the communities, I know that I grew up in Vandika. In Vandika, we have a community library there. And when I was coming up, the community library had a lot of impact on me. Every week I will come and borrow a book and read. I was doing it every week and it really helped me. But now, how many communities have the community libraries or the public libraries now in the state? You can just count a handful in some urban settings, which is not good. And I think this should be part of community development. And as we were saying, our representatives in politics and in other areas can try to factor this into part of their programs to create community libraries where they are not there. You know, a community library is supposed to have even a department that you have books on health, that people can read how to manage their health and all that. There are some retirees who are in the village now. They can find that very interesting when they have books on telling them about how to manage their health in their old age. Then there are books for children, small children. Now you are talking about the National Reading Day. If you don't have public libraries, how would that be effective? But if there are public libraries, the National Reading Day, I think it's a holiday. And during that holiday, the students or the pupils will not be in school, but they can go to their community libraries or public libraries to read what is there. So I think for us to succeed with this new development, care should be taken to develop public community libraries across the country.
When you mentioned the Department on Health provision of books that we guide people, my mind quickly went to a famous book, Where There Is No Doctor. Growing up as a young boy, it was one of my favorites. I used to read it with my elder brother's wife. We read it cover to cover.
You see.
And sometimes it would appear as if we knew how to even administer drugs or even give injection. But that's by the way, Prof.
Yeah.
Let me have your thoughts on provision of public libraries. How functional are the ones the country have available to serve citizens?
It's a crying need. It's actually a crying need. Even here in Makodi, you know, Fidelis Maka Library. As recent as the late 90s, when I started lecturing in BSU, I used to go and sit there and read.
Yeah.
By Fidelis Maka, you mean the state library,
The state library, yes,
the
the state
one on
library,
your
yes,
chair
yes,
you wrote?
Yeah, the state library.
Okay. It was built by Fidelis Maka?
Yes.
Okay.
I think, yes.
Okay.
So, I started lecturing in BSU in 1998. That library was very functional. I used to go there 99, 2000, 2001, 2002. I was still going there to read. But it's a shadow of itself. And then, if you want to Boko, there used to be a library close to Totif Palace then. Boko has no public library now. I'm not sure. Because when I went back after some years, they say it had packed up. So it's very important. What Mike said is very, very key. We must emphasize it. And along that line, let me state that when I grow up, I'll go to my village and build a library.
Oh,
wow. Interesting.
It's very important. But it's about time that
I am wondering where you want to grow up again, Professor.
I need to grow up in some areas more.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I grow up in those areas, I'll go to my village and build a public library.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that to encourage and challenge another person too. Politicians must make the building of libraries part of their constituency project.
Yes.
Not just about roads and bridges. Those are useful.
Yeah.
But they should include public libraries.
Yes.
This is what we said much earlier. Politicians must include that. From the state government to the local government chairman to House of Reps members
Yeah.
to House of Assembly members to senators. They should make public libraries part of their constituency projects.
Yes.
Their inability to do that demonstrates their limited understanding of the use and the needs of a library.
Yeah.
And let me say something here. Reading has a way of enhancing a person's health, even when you're not reading about health.
Yes.
3 days ago, a secondary school mate and friend of mine called me and we were speaking. I didn't like what I heard. He has grown old. And I told him, you have not been reading. If you are not exercising your brain, you go down. Your powers of reasoning diminish. So if we cultivate the habit of reading, why do you think people like Shoyinka are still that smart?
Mm-hmm.
When he's 90 years old, you
Yeah.
meet the man is sharp. Why is he like that? He's exercising the mind. So a person that is exercising the mind will not diminish so much with age. So if we build these public libraries, these community libraries, our retirees will have a way to retire.
Yeah.
This idea that people retire and they go into drinking ogogolo and brukutu, they are not even reading.
Yes.
That's the time they should read for pleasure.
Yes.
And if they are doing that, you will see that their situation will be different. People retire, they don't know that they can retire to reading.
Yes.
And they will acquire
live
knowledge.
longer.
Yes, and live longer. Acquire knowledge to talk to their kids, their great-grandkids and all that. So it's very important that community libraries be encouraged. For the moment, I doubt. I asked a friend about the library in Otukpo. I'm not sure. The one in Makurdi is a shadow of itself. The one in Boko, I don't think it's there at all. So Mike talked about one that he knew in Vandeke and all of that. Public libraries have diminished completely. It's an area that the state government and the nation should key into what the National Library is doing, and it should be a wake-up call.
Yeah.
So that these libraries are brought back to what they should be, so that they can serve the nation. That's it.
All right, dear listener, we'll go on a short break. Kindly stay tuned. Welcome back from that short break, dear listener. And if you are just tuning in, you've been listening to Perspectives on Agate Radio 95.5 Star FM Makurdi. We are discussing promoting national reading culture. I have as panelists in the studio a former head of department English at the Benue State University, Makurdi. He is a writer, Professor Moses Senongo. Also on the discussion is a former National Secretary General, Association of Nigerian Authors, a national ex-officio of that association, himself a writer too, Mike Otega. You can participate by calling in on 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Once you connect with us, we would like to know your full name and where you are calling from. Then you make your submission. Keep it very brief. Send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. 0912-699-9404. If you are not able to connect, please utilize that line. But remember to include your name and where you are sending your message from. Log onto our website on www.agateradio.tv.com to listen to us as well. Download the Agate Radio app from Google Play Store, which we also serve you our content. We are available on Radio Garden as well as social media platforms. You can reach us through all this. We are available to serve you. Good morning. Hello. Okay, you are on, but we can't hear you. The line is still open. 0814-335-9292. That's the line to call in on the show. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives. Hello. Okay. We are still here. 0814-335-9292. That's the line to call in on the program. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning.
Welcome.
From Yakio.
Magdalene, good. Magdalene Yohamba from Yakio. Good to have you join us.
Thank you. I want to see the guest in the studio, Professor Moses Sendang. Good morning, sir. Good morning, Prof.
Magda, good morning.
Thank you. I want to see that reading is like prayer. Whenever I wake up and pray, I feel so refreshed. I feel good. Just the way anytime I get a book and read, I feel that my knowledge has increased. Like I feel fulfilled. I feel I've gotten something. And this, I want to say that parents have a greater role to play here, in as much as the government has their own role to play. Yeah. The parents also has their own role to play. What I'm saying is this: if the children are taught to read at the early stage, they grow with it. They crave for reading and not just playing and doing other things. They want to read and want to read and want to read. So I hope that the parents listening to this program will teach their children to read at the initial stage, because when you grow up and want to have that habit of reading, it becomes a problem. Yes, you struggle and struggle and struggle. So when you begin at the initial stage, it's better. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalene.
Wow.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Parents should encourage reading. Definitely.
That's
before
quite a
we
perspective.
Absolutely. We are going to dive into that as we go along. Really a strong one. Good morning. Hello. Good morning. Okay, 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Send us an SMS to 0912-699-9404. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Nathaniel.
Morning. Welcome to Perspectives.
Donove James from Makpa in both local government of Benton.
All right. Thank you for calling in,
Yes.
Donove.
As regards to the people with community. Yes, this topic is a very important one. When we were growing up, we used to read and read again, and our knowledge was just increasing. But now, it is like the people are out for business, people are too much engaged, from dusk to down, they keep on puzzling, and there is no time for people to read. And it is not good for a society, because when you read, you must have a story to tell. You know, like me, there was a book I read, and I met something there that says one that makes a lot of mistakes in the past cannot live a successful or a comfortable present. If possible, it will be in the future when he corrects his mistake.
Yeah.
And then I keep advising my children and everybody that is trying to make a mistake that if you are making mistakes, it will be very difficult for you to presently live comfortable. And it means to try to avoid making mistakes. And it's helping me. But you see, when you stop reading, you people will be telling you stories rather than you tell people stories. So people should come back to the reading culture and embrace it, and they will feel happy. You just feel happy when you are reading. So the topic is an important one, and encourage every other person, the parents especially, to send their children, buy the reading materials for them, and encourage them to read whenever they are even back to school. They should continue reading, and it will help them in life and in the future.
Thank you,
Thank you
James.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Buy the reading materials, encourage reading. Thank you. When was the last time you picked a book, called in your chair or in the sofa to read? Tell us. Call in on 0814-335-9292. Good morning. Hello, good morning and welcome to Perspectives. All right. It does appear we have a serious glitch getting through to some lines, but a line is still open. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Welcome to Perspectives.
Yes, my name is Aso Augustine Aoni.
Very well.
I'm calling you from behind Makudi International Market here at your home village.
Okay.
Yes, the program and the topic is very interesting, and thank you people very much for bringing up something like that.
Thank you.
You see, reading culture will be very difficult to revive. Very, very difficult.
Okay, and why do you think so?
The movie industry, the TVs has replaced it. So our children these days, they prefer staying in front of the screens much more than reading books. Until our parents, that is the parents, they key in to discourage their children from mostly watching films. That would be very difficult to have. Though reading, some of us, to us, it's very interesting. When you read books, it's interesting. But the generation now, they are so much discouraged from reading. They mostly prefer the movies, watching movies and TVs. So until the parents also key in to discourage the children from mostly, not all the time, but at least they should have much time in reading their books than watching their TVs.
Okay.
I think that would be much better.
Okay, Aonyi. So I assume that you are a parent.
Yeah, I'm a parent, yes.
Okay, do you split time for your children to have time for reading as well as a little time for the movies or the screen?
Yes, I discovered that my child was taking more interest in movies, so I persuaded him. So he reads. Although he said that he don't enjoy novels, he don't enjoy. So I told him that reading, like watching movies, not all the time should be watching movies, but at least once in a while you read novels. They said they don't enjoy reading novels. So okay, go through through your elementary books. So now he reads much of elementary books. But maybe for like entertainment, he prefers movies.
Okay.
More of like novels.
Augustine, thank you for sharing your experience with us. As we go along, we hope other parents too will learn from this. And of course, thank you, by the way. Our panelists will also speak on this later on. I know, Mike, you are itching to say something, but we'll certainly address some issues surrounding that. Okay. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Welcome to Perspectives.
Ibudu Tenenge calling from Bisut at the moment.
Good to have you join us, Ibudu Tenenge.
Yes, I think some of these factors that affect reading culture might be the course of study that maybe one may pick in as a career. I could remember during my secondary school days, I loved reading novels like all these Chase, Gently Chase. But along the line, after medicine and surgery,
yes.
Yeah, hello?
Yes, we were listening to you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so after coming to the university, reading medicine and surgery, I couldn't combine it with reading other things because medicine and surgery alone is a bit bulky. So what I had to do was to completely take away the reading culture away from me. At most, I just read one or two inspirational tracks. And again, right now, I think one of the reasons why people don't read is introduction of many subjects in secondary school. During our days, we just have hello.
Yes, you're on.
Yeah, during our days, we just have integrated science, introductory technology, but now they splitted this subject into too many parts to the point that they don't have free periods. So I think we should look at this holistically, and I think bringing the reading culture is good. Most libraries, they are there. The one in Boko, I'm saying affirmatically that one is dead already. In Makodi is a shadow of itself. So government should do a lot, and I think individually again we should do a lot to bring back the reading culture.
All right. Iguditenenge, thank you. The discussant CM359292. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning, sir.
Good to have you join us on Perspectives.
Yes, sir. My name is Mr. Jairus Mala.
All right.
I'm calling from high level.
All right. Welcome, Jairus. Go ahead,
sir.
please.
Yes, the starting point of our children is the parent. I have 4 children. I have a very big flat screen television. And I'm a visually impaired man.
Okay.
When I did the connection and everything, my children will sneak go on the TV. The things I cannot see. They off the volume. And they were there busy watching movies. Watching television. Things I cannot see. So I don't know what was going on. Then one day as God will have it, they all slept and left the TV on. Then I started to hear something. Chee! I said, what's making noise? I quietly wake up, use my hands, and discover that TV is on. I said, okay, that's all right, no problem. Then following day, I removed the television, I sold it.
Oh, wow. what an approach.
I sold it. They started going, I told them, look, this is my house. We have a limited right in this house. After you come out from my house, you're on your own bed. As long as you eat from my pot, from my pocket and everything, your right is limited. I sold the television. The last boy who finished secondary school, the day he finished secondary school, the day the result comes out, that was the day I bought another television. For past how many years, and I don't have television in my house. So the parents, they said, they try to give permission to the children. They allow the children to have their excess right. So the children, they override the right have given to them in the family. They make them relaxed. Or they just come and carry a phone, come and give you, Daddy, they give me assignment from school. So I am looking for the assignment, the answer in the phone. Knowing of my child have a single phone until the pre-secondary school. Not one. And they never had, before you touch my handset with my permission. So if we parents, we can start from that point, I think we're able to bring the reading culture back to our children. If not, this is social media. It has killed the reading completely. Somebody talk of the course. Yes, even the course you are reading, some children don't even have the time to read the subject of that. They don't even have to read it. They only go and read and pass. The knowledge, the proper knowledge is not even there.
All right, Jairus.
You don't read to pass. You read to have the knowledge before passing coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So parents have a lot to do.
Thank you.
Yes, government have their own. Society have their own.
All right.
Teachers have their own, but the major one, parents and government. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for calling in. Thank you for sharing your approach. We hope. Anyway, I believe when you did that, it worked in your house. We should assume that. What a drastic one. Hello. Good morning. Welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning, sir.
Welcome.
My name is Aladeteve, calling from Yohon.
Aladeteve?
Calling from Yohon.
Okay, go ahead, TV.
So I know that I want to say that reading is not difficult as people think. Because if you give attention for something that you love doing, you must give attention for it. If you love reading, that no matter how difficult it is or no matter how engaged you are, but you must create a time reading. Another thing that I think that government should make a way, like, okay, that there's state library now. Government should create a way that bringing some textbooks to state library. Sometimes you go to state library and you will discover that you will not see any book that you want to read, and it's like as if maybe that Nigeria don't want to read. Thank you, sir.
All right. Aladiteve, thank you. We should revamp the library. I think that's the summary of his submission. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Yes, good morning. This is Johnson calling from E Division.
Johnson who?
Johnson Oko from E Division.
Good to have you join us, Johnson Oko. Go ahead, please.
Okay. This thing of reading, it's all based on approach. The children have been taught to read. Myself, when I was in secondary school, I was having some difficulty in some of the subjects that were being taught. One of our teachers introduced me to a method of reading that's very effective. He told me that whenever I'm having trouble reading, I should just get a storybook and read it. When you read storybooks, they'll awaken your interest in reading. Then when you pick up your textbook to study, it will be very easy. Because reading story is very interesting. When you hear the intricacies of Atebe's words, the David Yalof's sarcasm, that it will boost your morale, it will give you the joy of reading, and then from there you can study whatever educational material you have. I hail the prof in the house.
Thank you, Johnson. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Johnson is sharing his own approach. Maybe as we go along, you are experts, so you help us know whether storybooks can also deepen and awaken reading. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Welcome.
Yes, my name is Michael.
Michael who? And where are you reaching us from, Michael?
Okay, my name is Michael Gadi. I'm calling from Gadi Layout.
Okay.
Makodi.
All right, we're listening to you, Michael. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, I greet everybody in the house, greet the professor, greet all the guests, and this topic is really interesting. When it comes to education like this, it's very important to the whole society. First of all, I'd like to debunk on that issue of if you want to hide something from an African, you put it in the book. That was way back.
Okay, so are you a living example of someone who is disproving that, Michael?
Yes, I'm disproving that. It's not. That was way back when I can't even remember how old that has been when African was African. But now we even have Africans who are leaders in the white man's land.
Okay.
Yeah, so I debunk that. So okay, now my contribution is, first of all, the parents have a role to play here in the government. The parents have to start this thing from the stage where the child starts to learn. When you teach your child at that age, it gets inculcated inside the child. So when you get to a particular age, you don't even need anybody to remind you to go and read because it's been inculcated in you. So you read whenever you want to read. And basically, you don't just read. I heard the discussion talking about pleasure reading and all that. Even at the pleasure reading, you just don't read for pleasure. You read why you're reading, you achieve something in that you're reading for pleasure. So we read basically to achieve something. So when we read, we gain something. So it's very important to this topic is very, very important, this reading culture. The declining part of it, I'd like to just say one or two things on that side. You see, we said readers are leaders. How many people how many leaders today that can uprightly come and say, because I read very well that I'm at this position? Most times they lobby into these things. So we should make a provision where, for instance, somebody studies, goes to the university to study political science, And then he reads very well because I want to be a politician, or I read this, and then he's being utilized in the society.
Okay,
Oh,
Mike. So those of us that any like professor who is a professor of English should have no place in leadership. That's what you're saying, or you're only using political science as a hypothetical
yes,
case.
that's where that my emphasis there is on the political science aspect. I'm trying to use that as an example.
Okay, Mike. Try to conclude your thoughts.
Okay,
Yeah.
so on that note, let it be that we have read and we have achieved something. It shouldn't be that we have read and nothing has been achieved. That is my emphasis on that.
Thank you, Michael.
Let me just give, yes, one, the conclusion, I'll just give you a typical example. I have a friend who read and he reads very well, went to law school, did law at the university. And then he was deprived of first class because they said she doesn't greet people. But this is somebody who took time to read just to achieve the first class, but was deprived of the first class. And she was told bluntly into her face. So that's a discouragement.
Okay.
So it can discourage people who intend to read to achieve. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Maybe somebody has read well and because he doesn't greet people. But reading itself should teach you to greet people properly. I think that should be married. Anyway, we are not trivializing what you said. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. I am Gabriel Amaza calling from last year.
You are who?
Gabriel Amaza calling from last year.
Good to have you join us, Gabriel Amaza. How is life here this morning?
We bless God.
Okay, that's good to know. Go ahead, Gabriel.
First of all, I greet the guests in the house. Education is concerned. But first of all, let's look at some of the factors that are discouraging reading in our society, Nigeria in particular. First of all, let's say in this 21st century now that we are, almost everything has been digitalized. We no longer believe in the analog world that we were in before, where reading was very vital and key. Now we believe everything is digitalized. We believe everything is more of social media these days. For example, when I was a child in my nursery primary school, that was in the early 2000s. By then, when you are in school, you have nothing to do than to focus on your books. You read textbooks, your elementary books, whatever, and nothing more. But come to look at it these days, most things about the reading are now being transferred digitally, where it makes life more difficult and it doesn't promote reading at all. First of all, even in our libraries these days, you realize that we have limited materials in our libraries these days. In fact, like in my school, they advise you the easiest way for you to get access to materials is to go on e-library. And on this library, a lot of distractions comes up while doing research on the internet for one or two things. But it's never so when you're carrying out your research in a textbook. So this also has played a vital role in discouraging reading. Then let's look at the family perspective.
Yes,
too.
say the family perspective and conclude.
We believe the family is the foundation of everything about a child. That lays a basic foundation of what a child is in the society. So, in the family now, we believe if you don't have this, you don't have that, you're left behind. There is this in this family, there is that in this family, so we should also have this in our family too. But at the same time, we fail to look at the consequences of those things we are striving to put in place. Are the negative consequences overriding the positive ones? We fail to address those things as well.
Gabriel, thank you.
If you look at these things very well, then you realize that the digital world we are into today is more of, you know, killing our reading habits today.
All right.
And again,
Gabriel,
when
thank
you
you.
look at
Thank you, Gabriel. Let's conclude
when
there.
you look at the economic situation of the country, you realize that you don't even have time to read. You're all about what you're going to eat, and it's not easy going about what you're going.
Thank you, Gabriel. Gabriel, thank you for calling in. You have made your points. 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Good morning and welcome.
Hello, good morning, Mr. Nathaniel.
Morning, welcome.
Yeah, good morning to your guys in the studio there.
Thank you.
I am Engineer Sunday Akpa, calling from Dobak Bakodi.
Okay, we are listening to you,
Yeah,
Sunday.
I think, yes, the problem is systemic in Nigeria. Is it when excellence is sacrificed on the altar of mediocrity? When hard work is sacrificed on the altar of nepotism and man no man? Now, when a professor that is renowned with so many books and publications is not accorded any recognition compared to a secondary school leaver who just entered politics and makes money and he's adult. So how do you expect people to work hard? But be that as it may, I think we need to change the system. We need to speak
Sunday, let me interject you briefly.
Yes.
Does it mean we are rationalizing that because professors are well read and they're not treated fine, people should no longer read? Is that what you're telling us?
No. Exactly the opposite I'm saying. What I'm trying to say is that we should change our psyche to reward hard work and not to begin to adore, nepotism and the rest. So what I'm actually saying is that we should change our psyche, we change our system. It is necessary to read. And also, even from the parent point of view, from the parent side, we need to teach our children how to read, and we ourselves also how to read. Don't say, do what I say, but not what I do. When you teach them to read, we also read. Yeah. How many parents read these days? Yeah. They close from work, they go to beer parlor, they don't have time for their children. So we need to read. No matter your level of education, even if you're a professor, you're going to learn until you die. So reading is very, very important, actually. Anytime you open a page of a book, you are going to learn new things. Very, very important. So we're actually on the same page with you. We should encourage reading habit.
All right.
I read, my children read, and I encourage them to read. I check their books when they come from school, when they were young, and that is how it is.
Thank you,
so I actually say that we should change the system. We should encourage reading, seriously. Not just money.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think there should be no as I read, my children read. Because I think let's have the honest ones admitting that I don't read, but we are encouraged.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
This is Abenga Dennis, behind Nigerian Correctional Service.
Okay, good to have you, Abenga Dennis. Go ahead, please.
Okay. For me, I don't want to blame the parent much. I rather blame the government because I never saw any school library in public primary school. Yes.
Okay.
Because
government
should establish.
Hello.
Yes, government
Dennis.
should,
Dennis.
Sir?
You said you never saw any library in public school, primary or whatever.
Yeah, that is school library. The one that is used in primary and secondary school.
Okay,
the school library. I never saw one.
The school you went to in particular, or all schools, you have never seen one.
Yeah, I've never seen one. Since I'm going around, I never saw one in public primary school.
Are you sure of this? Is it in a particular place or the entire Benue? Maybe if you are telling.
Although I never go across the entire Benue like that, but
maybe
one
if
I've seen, I never saw one.
Maybe if you are telling us your school, but that's okay. Go ahead, just to put it clear, so we don't put misleading information in public domain.
Okay, sir. Okay. Maybe I'm sorry for that, but please, government should establish a school library in a public primary school and secondary school. It will help very well, very, very well, because that is the foundation. I find it very difficult to make friends with book because the school I have attended does not have a school library. Because some of our parents doesn't go to school.
Okay, Abenga Dennis.
Yes.
We are not in any way trying to spotlight the school you attended negatively. but maybe that school may be still facing that challenge. Maybe you should mention the name of the school so that if the authorities can respond to it. Because if you mention that you find it difficult to befriend books because your school never had a library, it calls for a concern. Do you want us to understand or know the name of the school?
Okay, LUGEA Primary School, Aya, Malone.
Okay, that's in Gwe
Yes.
East.
That's in Gwe East local government.
All right, so now go ahead and conclude your thoughts.
Okay, you know that some of our parents does not go to school. Since they put their children into school, they doesn't know how to urge you to read book. They don't even know whether they don't know the content of education. They don't even know whether reading is good because they don't even know about reading at all. So those parents like this, you cannot blame them like that. You rather blame the government because this is the foundation. When you doesn't lay the foundation of the house very well, it cracks.
Okay.
So I am urging government to please establish a school library in public primary and secondary school. It will help a lot.
Dennis Abenga, thank you. Thank you for calling in. Thank you. So we hope the authorities are listening. If LGAA Primary School Yamalon is still without a library, as alleged by Dennis, please authorities should act so that situation is addressed to encourage other persons to cultivate reading. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I'm Jonathan Seba calling from Adeke behind Nova Barracks.
Good to have you join us, Jonathan.
Yes, thank you very much. I was born and brought up in Kasinala Town. And there used to be a Kasinala Town library. While growing up in Kasinala in the 80s, the town library used to be a place where children of my age gathered to read books. And when I was admitted into Government College Kasinala, there was a standard school library there. And after my secondary school education, I moved to Jos. I was in Jos for a couple of years, and I made the National Library place to rest. And reading is very, very important. When you read, you develop new language. And when you develop new language, you have more ideas. And you see, if you go to Kasinala Town today, the library is no longer there. And why I was thinking about the causes of insecurity in that axis on the internet, I came across a material that talked about curbing in youth restiveness with a library. And there is no library in that area now. I believe if this generation is a kind of generation that is reading, most of the antisocial devices they are involved in will be minimized. So my advice is that government should revamp all the moribund libraries around the town, around the state. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, thank you for calling in. Thank you. Jonathan is bringing a library as a panacea to the youth restiveness in Kasinala or Isakara in general.
Fantastic idea.
Good morning.
Good morning, Matanya.
Thank you for joining us on Perspectives.
My name is Sonny, the young old man calling from Demekwe.
Okay, Sonny, the young old man, here we deal with real names. I know the young old man may be some form of nickname. So would you mind, I hope you don't mind us knowing your full name, please.
My full name is Sonny Ochiu.
Good. Thank you so much. Sonny Ochiu, we're listening. Go ahead and make your submission.
Yes, Sonny Ochiu is my name. My own submission this morning is that, yes, government have a big role to play with the teachers and the parents. But the important thing is that in 70s, when we were in primary school, even though they were a semi-library, we used our HM, they call them headmaster. We use their office as, that is their sitting room, as our library. If you go to the school store, it was full with all the books that you need to know. And when we are going home, our class teacher will send a monitor, go and bring English language, mathematics textbook, social study, and they will share to everybody in the class. They give assignment there in that book. Then you will go home. Whether you like it or not, you will be forced to read. Because when you are coming the next day, you are going to recite what the assignment that the class teacher has given to you. And until you recite it very well, you will not sit down. And that encourages us to read as at that time, right from primary 2 down to primary 6, or primary 7.
Okay,
they were doing that.
Okay, Sunday, because for want of time, you should conclude now. You have given us a long history. So just conclude with brief thoughts of what ways to promote reading you're drawing from that experience.
Yes. My own encouragement is for government to restock the primary school with the available materials and teachers to use those books and give the assignment to pupils so that when they go home, they will learn from it. Because when they come back and they did not learn from it, they receive cane. I think that should help us a lot.
Thank you, Sunday.
That is my submission.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your submission. Okay, back to our discussants before we engage with more people who are available and willing to engage with us. Mike, you listen to several of our callers.
Yeah.
The problem seems to be about parents, systemic. In what ways will parents encourage a culture of reading in their children at the basic and early level?
You see, I totally agree with those people who say the whole thing should begin with the parents. Because if you ask how many parents even have small bookshelves in their houses, you know what you are doing? They say that when the mother goat is chewing cud, the younger one learns. So if you have books in the house, if you grow up in a house where there are books, there is no way you will be tempted to one day pick one book and look at it or read. But the situation we have in the country now is quite different. You will see a parent with a very large television set in the parlor, sometimes stacks upon stacks of movies and all that, and you don't see a bookshelf, even if it's a small cupboard where you put books. Those things are not there. So how will the children imbibe the culture of reading from the home if you don't have books around the house? I think we should think about that too. And just like some of the callers have said, parents have to be deliberate about encouraging the children to read books. I like what the other man talked about, even though it was extreme, selling the television because the children are not reading. It reminds me of what somebody did in a book I read. He put the television in a cupboard, and then he just gave 2 days in a week when the children will watch the television. We remove it from the cupboard and they will watch. The television goes back to the cupboard, And then instead of that, he encouraged them to go to the nearby library and borrow a book every week to read. And at the end of the day, it was a successful story. So we should be deliberate about ensuring that our children read.
All right. The kind of materials our parents will provide. Some friends may share their experiences that I started reading with the newspaper. periodicals that my father will buy, magazines.
Yeah.
Some will tell you Bible. Some will tell you storybooks, Chike and the River. So, what are those kind of materials that are relevant for children at a formative age?
Well, most of the materials you have mentioned, or like the Bible, but of course you should get some storybooks. You know, one thing with storybooks, small novels or novelettes, is that they encourage the mounting interest in the child to read. You know, children love stories. So if you have storybooks around, they will definitely enjoy reading them. And then inherently, the culture of trying to read will always be there. So storybooks are part of it. Yes, you can encourage them to read the Bible as a guide for their life and all that. But I think starting with storybooks is easier. Even if it is the stories in some of their textbooks, you encourage them to read them.
You heard one of the callers who said a teacher gave him a therapy that if he's reading and he's having difficulty comprehending or even concentrating, he should split it with a small story book and then go back to reading. The interest will be rejuvenated. Is that approach sustainable from your experience?
No, it depends. As a writer, I think I also use it, and I think it's something that can help a lot of people. Even while something, and then all of a sudden you have maybe a writer's block, or your mind will be blocked with ideas. At such times, if you are able to get an interesting story and read, then it refreshes you and you get back to work and continue with more speed. So I think it's a good thing too.
Okay, Prof, let's have your thoughts on this subject matter. Apart from being a teacher in this area, you are also a parent. Help us understand how parents can encourage reading culture.
I will only appreciate our callers for introducing what we didn't mention earlier at all.
We're certainly going to come to it.
It's whereby you use television, phone screens, and the internet to help you in the job of parenting. And it can be very negative and it can be very dangerous. And some of the perspectives that we have heard from our callers are really, really fantastic. But the truth is that if you start with your children with your own example, something is happening to me that I don't even know. I have young kids, and because I am a professor, I'm a teacher, I have a big study, all of my children are just naturally gravitating towards
books,
stories.
Yeah.
And it's so if your children see you reading at all times, whether it is the Bible, whatever it is, if you are reading, they are noting, they are following you. So it's very, very key, it's very important. Parents have a huge role to play in how children grow up. But someone mentioned I want to give us the story of Ben Carson. You know, Ben Carson was a fantastic neurosurgeon, African American.
I have read some of his titles as well.
So you must have read the story that he had with his mother.
Yeah.
His mother, they had a favorite television program. His mother said nobody will watch that program. So she ensured that watching television was a reward to reading. So she will give them some books to read. And so in order to watch the television, Ben Carson will quickly read it and do his homework and stuff like that. So you may not stop. In fact, if you can stop television completely, there's no harm with it. Sincerely. In my house, there is as little television as possible. I hardly subscribe. I used to subscribe hoping I will manage, but I discovered it was difficult. So I hardly subscribe. So there is television, but it's kept at the minimum. So if you can keep it at the minimum, if there's no television at all, there's no. I know some of my ogars, I can mention that you know them. There is one here in Makodi. He has no television in his house, not even one. You go to his Abuja house, there is a television only at the dining section. Television can be educative, but it can also be very dangerous.
Yeah.
So it can really interfere with you. So
are you guys trying to run? So sorry, referring to you guys, Prof. I hope you guys, you professors or panelists on this program, are not trying to run radio and television out of business.
No, we're not. No, we're not. So long
okay,
as
because
it's carefully
I get
modulated.
radio has a TV too, so we don't want.
So long as it's
that's by
carefully
the way on a lighter
modulated,
note.
yeah.
Yes.
So you keep it at the minimum. Ensure that reading takes the upper hand. That's the point that we're making. And I think it's not just parents. I want to also add the church. In a part of the country, the church has a big role. Pastors, reverend fathers, priests, preachers have a role to educate society. Jesus himself at one point asked, have you not read? They brought a question. That means Jesus expects us to read.
And there is this phrase, a popular verse in the Bible, our people perish for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Because it is only in reading that the knowledge will be gained.
Sure.
I think so,
Yeah.
part of it.
Yeah, I think the Sadducees or Pharisees that came to Jesus with a question about divorce. So Jesus asked them, have you not read? From the beginning, this is what and what and what happened. So parents have a role. The church has a role. Preachers have a role. Preachers have to encourage children, encourage parents, educate parents to go home and do the needful. Even if you are not educated as a parent, I grew up at a point with parents that were not educated at all. But the man that I grew up with knew how to encourage me to read. He will tell me, go and read your books. Have you read your books? If I come, he'll say I should bring it. He knew where I have been rewarded with scores. He knew where I had failed. So he would say, why did you do here that they have put the cross that shows that you didn't get it? So parents have a role. The church has a role. It's very key, it's very important. I want to say that if we follow these things, it's not as if everybody is reading, everything is going to be perfect. The English poet, I think that was Alexander Pope, talked about bookful blockheads. That's another thing altogether. But for now, we're encouraging people to read. When you read, you just know how to decipher what you are reading properly and know how you can use it to improve society, to improve your life and improve society. So I think I benefited a lot from our callers, and I am grateful they added a very fresh and very significant perspective to our discussion. So that's the extent to which I agree.
All right. Let's take a few messages. When we come back, we should be drawing our concluding thoughts gradually. But the line is still open. Let's take messages, by the way, before we come back. Good morning, Nathaniel, and your guests in the studio. It takes only a good reader to be a good leader. And it also takes only a good reader to be a good student. Africans should do well by reading books always in order to produce good leaders. Vincent Akko from Wadata. Thank you, Vincent, for your message. Good morning. I get radio and the guests in the house. The reading culture is low now because of the examination malpractice that has been introduced to almost all the schools. The students no longer read, and parents too don't care, knowing full well that they can pass their final exams. For reading culture to return back, we will have to put an end to that and see how many people will go back to reading. Richard Ajikwe from High Level. Richard, thank you for sending in your message. Good morning. Hello. Okay, the line is still open, 0814-335-9292. 0814-335-9292. Good morning and welcome to Perspectives.
Good morning, gentlemen in the studio.
Thank you for joining us on.
Yes, this is Mr. Emmanuel Abba from behind Modern Market.
Okay.
Thank you. Your guest in the studio has spoken well, and you, the anchor of the program, you have coordinated the program very well.
Thank you,
Thank you very much. In my opinion, in the topic we are discussing this morning, I have listened to other earlier callers, and the excuses are abound. Yes, but I think that in as much as we have some distractions now that may be adduced as reasons why reading culture is very low now, one thing is paramount, which is reading is an art that is very, very important to the individual. In our class, our lecturer will tell us that somewhere, someday, you will have to face your challenge all alone. If you want to be a good graduate, if you want to learn or to take the reason why you are here seriously, is up to you, because someday, somewhere, you will face it all alone. For that reason, each one of us, or children, as it is, as we are discussing now, that one of the reason or one of the way we can promote reading culture, of course, it's all boiled down to the parents. It's all on the parents. We should try as much as we can to encourage our children. Whether some people will argue that it's not all about book, whether you know book or not, those who will make it will still make. Yes, all these things are societal things that are realities.
All right.
But we cannot do without knowledge, and one way we can get knowledge is by reading.
Thank
so
you,
we
Emmanuel.
should encourage our wards, our children, to read.
Thank you.
And minimize other home activities.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Emmanuel. For want of time, we're so sorry, we have to end with you, and that's the last call we will take, because our time is no longer there as we gradually draw our concluding thoughts. And this time, Mr. Otsega, you are a former National Secretary General of ANA. What role can bodies like your own association do to foster reading culture, and particularly with regards to promoting book clubs, not in schools, but in the society in general?
I think that is what ANA is already in the forefront of doing. Because in ANA, we have been going around towns and cities and doing reading campaigns, reading awareness campaigns, so that people should be aware that there is need for everybody in the society to be reading. At some point, we go around and distribute books written by our members, so that society, we even distribute books to libraries, so that society will find this book useful and do that, and we create awareness. Look at another area. If you go to visit somebody in an office like yours now, while somebody is waiting in the sitting room, if you have books around, the person will be reading while he's waiting for the main thing. But instead, they put televisions. So all those things we are trying in ANA to provide awareness, so that people know that it is better for people to read than to watch television and all that. We have handbills and things like that in other across the country. We're trying to make the campaign a success. So it's something we're already doing.
All right, Prof. Give us your concluding thoughts on the ways government and corporate organizations can contribute to promoting reading to foster a culture of national development.
Let's start from individual. Let me start with myself.
Very well.
My child's birthday is about this time. Part of my birthday package to him will be a book.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And I say that to challenge parents who are listening to us. Cultivate the culture of buying books for your children. During birthday, not just a day for clothes and birthday cake. Include a book. And after that, you ask them whether they have read the book. That is how it begins. And then I said earlier that it goes to other organizations. I mentioned the church. I really am important. I am really laying emphasis on the church. It's very key. What can be done is to create the awareness. What you are doing is the awareness. And I just hope people are listening. Particularly the political class. It's really, really embarrassing and shocking. It's something that I have made this effort before, I think 4 years ago, I started something in Boko that I tagged it. It was aimed at building the Boko library. I started a book that I called Boko Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. The aim was to get a book on Boko and then launch it and get funds from that launching and then
I think you
start
should,
the library.
you should revive that, Prof. Because I never knew of it, because I am number one Boko boy who would love
really?
to promote. Don't mind me.
No, it's great. I really collected some essays. I got people to write, people who were writing. I think along the line, one or two things came up that really discouraged. But now that you have said, I will be encouraged. Maybe
Please,
I'll resume
see to it.
It's very key. Yes.
Boko is a place that has produced several people, including the immediate past governor of Benue State, His Excellency Chief Samuel Otom, who has never hidden his Boko identity. Anytime he's anywhere, he presents a picture of how he started his life in Boko Park and has risen to where he is, a product of grace.
So when I
attended an inaugural lecture in Nasarawa State University, Kefi. Professor Tehin Bashija started his inaugural lecture with the phrase, "I am a Boko boy." Yeah. So, if Boko is that very important, why don't you revive that?
I will. That project was specifically tied to reviving the Boko Library, because I felt very bad to discover that the Boko Library had gone completely. And that's one place that even as an undergraduate, if I came to Boko, I'll just go there. Treated individuals can step in. People who have the ego should consider it a point of duty to build a library for their various villages. Politicians is very key, is very important. It's something that is capital intensive. You need to have something. And if we can talk about institutions, but we just be involving ourselves in an academic exercise. Let's deal with individuals.
All right.
Yes, that's where I want to base my own emphasis.
Thank you very much. This is where we conclude today's edition of Perspectives. Professor Moses Tsenongo is a former head Department of English at the Benue State University. He is an author. He joined us on this edition of the program to share thoughts with us on promoting national reading. We thank you very much indeed, Professor, for your time.
Thank you, Nat.
Mike Otsega is a former National Secretary General, Association of Nigerian Authors, currently a national ex-officio. He is an author himself. Thank you so much indeed, Mike Otsega, for coming on Perspectives.
My pleasure, Nathaniel.
Dear listener, thanks for your listenership. Join us on Wednesday as you journey through the week. Pick a book, read at least a chapter or a page, so that we'll continue to revive the culture of reading in Nigeria. Thank you, and have yourself a great Wednesday, a great Monday. Goodbye. I'll see you on Wednesday. Patience Abeni is already standing by to take you through the next bit of transmission. Bye-bye.